Welcome to the newest episode of Life Lessons in Hindsight, where we explore the wisdom that comes from looking back. I'm Teresia, a life and mindset coach for women over 40. Like you, I've navigated life's highs and lows and worn many hats, from nurse practitioner to chemical engineer, and started over more times than I can count. This podcast is for women ready to embrace self-compassion, learn from the past, and step boldly into their next chapter. Join me as we share stories, reflect, and discover the art of turning hindsight to foresight. Hey, what's up? Thanks for joining. I hope that you're doing well, and welcome to episode 4. Today, I want to talk about 10 things you need to start doing to have the courage to live the life that you want. See, I don't think that good lives where people are thriving, I don't think those things happen by accident. I think people are intentional about it and have figured out a way to create it. Every time I found myself on the end of a crappy life, whether I'm struggling in my career or like I was struggling in my marriage, I always ask myself when I'm in the depths of despair, what am I not getting right? What is it? How come that person is looking like they sort of have it under control or have it managed, and I'm not? And what am I missing? Now, I don't think that people's lives are perfect, and we're going to talk about that. That's one of my final steps. Life is 50-50. I don't think people's lives are perfect, and I don't think it's healthy to aspire to perfection. But when I look, you can see when someone is thriving in their lives, when they're doing things that energize them and there's a kind of joy there. It doesn't mean that their lives are perfect. Bad things happen to them too. But they have this other thing figured out where there's not this dullness and dreariness to your life, right? And so that's really where I'm coming with this, right? Now, why do I say courage? I think courage is a big piece of the puzzle. I don't think it's the only thing, right? And what do I mean by courage? Courage is the ability to take a step forward and move into action in spite of fear. That you're feeling afraid, you're feeling anxious, right? You have some reservation, but you take that step forward in spite of it all. That's what courage means. And I think that's a big piece of the puzzle, but that's not all of it. Because there's a way of being when we have courage. You can't just sit there and say, "Oh, I'm courageous now," and that's it, right? You're courageous, and then what, right? How do you show up, and how do you show up differently? All right, let's get through the 10 steps. The first one is, this is a favorite of mine. I think if you even ask my kids, I say this one a lot. You are in charge. Here's the thing. You're the adult now. No one is coming. The Calvary is you. I don't know how else to say it, right? But I think a lot of times we're living life as though there's somebody coming behind us, or we're hoping that somebody will tell us what to do. That ship has sailed if you're an adult. That somebody is you. You get to decide. And the sooner you recognize that you are in charge and you are in the driver's seat, the quicker you will get to your goal. Because then you'll stop all this waiting. And you'll realize that, the buck stops with you. And you'll start to look to yourself for solutions. I'm not saying that you have all the solutions, but you're holding yourself responsible for change and for action in your own life. That's what I mean by you are in charge. Stop waiting for somebody else to come. Stop blaming other people for the quality of your life. Especially when we're in relationships, or we're in relationships in all places. We're in relationships with people at work, right? Anytime we're in relationships with our friendships, in our marriage, with our children, anytime you're having a kind of relationship or quality in your life where you don't like, it's not don't it's not useful to wait on the next person to change. You've got to make decisions that move you forward to the life and the version of relationship that you're interested in having. All right, so that's it. Number one, you're in charge. Okay, so step two, develop belief in yourself. What does that mean? It means trust in your abilities, like trust in your capacity to get things done, right? Trust in your capacity to figure things out. Trust in your decision making, right? Trust that, look, given all the things I know right now, this is my best guess. Trust that. And trust that if that doesn't work out, I have it in me to figure out what my next steps is, that I will sit and figure out the new things I know at that future time, and then decide what step I take from there. That's just really believing in your intrinsic ability to come through and use the resources around you, um, use resources within you, and to think and to process and to figure out what the next steps are, right? Because in you, there's always this part of you that is always negative, always doubting, always believing that, oh my gosh, something is going to happen. It's normal. It's a part of us that keeps us safe, right? It's that apprehension. And when you're trying new things, when you're trying to create a life that you've never done before, and you're going for it and putting yourself out there, you will have that voice in you that's cautious and fearful and saying, yeah, but what if that doesn't work out? What if you get harmed, etc. And most of the time, the harm is being embarrassed in front of lots of people. It's like me and this podcast. Even as I speak right now, there is still a part of me that is feeling this is stupid. This doesn't sound insightful. Nobody's going to like that. Why are you even bothering? But if I want to be the person who's done this thing and is someone who has a beautiful coaching business that's built out and reaching people, these are some of the things I need to get good at doing. And therefore, I really need to get good at quelling that voice in me that's always going to be throwing shade at the thing that I'm trying to do. This is what believing in yourself it means, right? That you're stepping forward, again, doing it with the courage, right? You're stepping forward and trusting that you're going to be okay. And yeah, recognizing that there's a part of you that's afraid and is doing so to keep you safe, but we're going to hold back and take the step in spite of that voice. And we're going to show ourselves that we can do it and learn new things and do new things. Otherwise, when you don't have a belief in yourself, you just remain where you are. I think you also remain highly influenced by what other people think and say and do, and then use them as a guide in your own life. And the thing is, most of the time, we don't like lives that are mimics of other people. We may use what other people are doing in their lives as ideas, but we thrive better when we're creating our own thing. Bottom line is, treat yourself like you're in friendship with yourself. How do you develop good friendships? You trust. How do you trust? You do things in friendship, right? So you're existing, you're planning things, you're doing things together with a friend, and therefore over time you're like, wow, that person really shows up and is someone I can trust. You need to do that for yourself too. You need to go out in the world and start doing things and building a track record within yourself as someone who's reliable and trustworthy. So that's number 2. Okay, number 3 is pay attention to your sparks of inspiration. So I work with women over 40, and I can't tell you how many times I meet people for the first time and they just say, I'm stuck and I don't know what I want. I don't know what to do. And when I ask questions and after I meet with them, it's inevitable that they then say, oh, you know what? This thing sparked my interest. This was something I thought about, but oh, I couldn't do that. Pay attention to that. I take my sparks of inspiration really seriously. I've changed my careers a lot of times, and a lot of people can look at that and say, that's a little unstable. I used to be a chemical engineer. Can you imagine that? I used to work in a factory floor. Like, seriously. I did that for some time, several years, until I was like, wow, this is just not working for me. I then moved into public health, and then I moved into being a nurse practitioner. And now I'm building this entire new thing as a life coach. I really pay serious attention to these sparks, what I call sparks of inspiration. When I look at the world and things catch my eye, I pay attention to that. I explore them. And then I use courage to try. I'm not advocating for you to quit a job, to change careers. Maybe that's not your thing. But if you're feeling like your life is a little gray or lackluster, pay attention to the stuff that excites you. Is it that someone is traveling and that seems to be interesting to you? Is it the new hobby that you see someone have done? One of my friends has gotten into gardening. She wants to take classes. She's an empty nester and she's really excited about taking these classes about how to plant and I don't know, all the stuff that goes into gardening. So she's paying attention to different sparks of inspiration and she's willing to try. She may or may not continue with it, but it doesn't really matter. She's just building excitement in her life and doing things that give her joy. Pay attention to those sparks. They're meaningful. I don't think they're supposed to be ignored. Right? And then decide what level of execution you want. Are you going all out? Are you taking classes? Are you just reading some things? Are you watching some DIY do-it-yourself channel on TV? You decide, right? You decide how in-depth you want to get to it. But don't let those sparks of inspiration go to waste. They are important. Okay, so step 4 is decide what you want. I think this kind of goes hand in hand with step 1 of you're in charge. You get to decide what you want. I think sometimes we act like as if we're going to get in trouble if we make decisions in our life that are not consistent with an expectation, like what the world expects from us, what our family expects from us, what our friends expect from us. I think we miss the fact that every single person is struggling in their lives. It's not like as if they have the perfect answer themselves. So the fact that we sit here and are beholden to what society, friends, family, etc. say or want is crazy. Because no one has it perfectly figured out. So why not just go with your version of things and go with the things that make you feel happy? But before you can decide what you want, I think take stock of your life. What are you doing? How are you spending your time? And is that okay with you? Are you okay with that list? Does that make sense to you? Or is it that list is okay up to a certain point in time? That I'm okay doing this for the next 5 years, but it's a problem after that. So look at where you're spending your time, where you're placing your attention, who you have in your life, and are you happy with all of that? Because ultimately, you get to choose. This is part of being in charge and being in control. Part of it is deciding and showing up with full responsibility around that decision. And sometimes we're just really afraid to make the choice. Like we only want to make the choice if we're guaranteed a certain outcome, and that's not life. That is not life at all. All you have is the facts that you know now and the decision that you want to have and are willing to execute. I remember how afraid I was of ending my marriage. Like it was terrifying. It took me years to make a decision. And after I did it, I looked back and I thought, wow, you're kind of ending for the same stuff you were thinking for a good 5, 6, 7 years. Like sometimes I'd say, what a waste of time. But I also, sort of treat myself with some level of compassion and say that, oh, well, you didn't know any better. You weren't good at making decisions. Like, it's a skill to make decisions. Because when you make a decision, you often have like options and you have to pick something to go with. Otherwise, you're just going to be stuck with options and go nowhere. So it's a skill to saying, I call this. That all of these can be good. I can see these working out, but I got to pick one or some and go with it. So I move into action and go into the next step. So that choice to break up my family was so scary. And the only thing I knew was this is not working. And it's not been working for a long time. And I didn't know what the future would look like other than wouldn't be married anymore. Would be in separate homes. My kids would be shuttled back and forth between homes. And that obviously there'd be some emotional support required for that to happen and happen well. But I wasn't sure how I would be. I just knew this wasn't working. So in your process of deciding what you want, don't stop because you want a perfect answer. You want to have the entire thing you want played out over 10 years. You can't do that. Sometimes you're making the decision based on, all right, I have an idea. I think this is how it's going to shake out. I know for sure what the first step looks like, but we'll see. I can tell you categorically, today, years after my divorce, I could not have imagined this life at all. I couldn't have even imagined that I could be this happy in this version of myself that feels so much like me. That in my 30s, I feel like I was living a version of me that was half me. That here in my 40s, I feel so much like what you see is such a deep, true reflection of the truth of me. I wouldn't have imagined that. That wasn't even part of my vocabulary at the time. So part of it is decide, make a call and be open to be amazed. Or be open also for disappointment. That comes with it. There's sometimes I look back at some decisions I've made and I'm like, yeah. But that's information. That's information that I can use when I'm making other decisions. Like, oh, remember that didn't work out so well, so maybe we need to think about that. But you get to decide. And you should decide. Because if you don't, you're going to live a life that's not your own. And that's no fun. Okay, so step 5, be your best cheerleader. I love this one. You have to have your own back. Like, seriously. You can't decide on a version of life and then spend the entire time disparaging yourself, telling yourself how much you're a loser, telling yourself, see, I told you this is not going to work out. You have to be your own champion. Like sometimes I really talk to myself and I'm like, wow, you can do this. You've done hard things before. This is just another hard thing. This is just another chapter in your book. You're good. You have always come through for yourself. You can do this. I even have affirmations that I record to myself, I swear. I play them at night before I go to bed. I read somewhere where, I don't know, there's like some beta wave, alpha wave, who knows? Like if you play this stuff that somehow it's supposed to enter your brain. Yeah, that's the kind of stuff I do. And so I record affirmations and I record encouragement for me that makes sense to me. Because in this world of billions of people, if I can't have my back, what is the point? I'm with myself the entire time. Be kind to yourself. Talk to yourself like, have you ever seen when kids are walking for the first time and how the parents are all around them and just clapping, taking pictures, so excited? You need to do that for yourself in your own head. You need to clap when you take a wobbly first step. You need to clap when you fall flat on your face and just like face plant. You know, kids, when they can't walk, that's what they do. And you clap. And you believe that they're capable of learning from that and taking the next step, a next step that's even better than the one they took before. That's what you need to do for yourself. No one else is going to do that for you. Or maybe you have girlfriends that can. But you need to develop this skill for yourself. I even started taking myself out. Like I'd take myself out to celebrate. Like a one-on-one dinner with myself. I was so uncomfortable going out on my own. Like going out to a restaurant and like sitting by yourself. And I do that. I do that to celebrate my own wins because I'm uncomfortable celebrating my own wins and I want to develop the skill of doing that. So do your own version of it. High five yourself, hug yourself, talk to yourself in the mirror in the morning. Girl, I know you don't want to wake up. This is a tough day. I know you're tired. I know you've been up all night fighting with that perimenopause. But you got this. You're going to be okay. I like to tell myself that your brain works. You'll figure it out. You have a brain that works. Bring your brain online. It's good. You're good. Worst case scenario is not happening today. So be your best cheerleader. Okay, number 6. Live purposefully most of the time. I don't believe in perfection, right? And it's rich coming from someone who has a perfectionism problem, right? But honestly, it's held me back so much. So I like to start off with, we're not doing perfect, and just to remind myself. But be purposeful with how you live. You're not just winging it. Why are you winging it through life? You know? Like, I think, I'm not saying plan it to a T, but have an idea of what you want to do. Most, like, the direction you're going. And then don't plan it so rigidly whereby you don't have room for the unexpected. Because I think most of the time we're always surprised. There's always room for things going not quite according to plan. But then sometimes you're like, actually, that worked out even better than I thought. Leave space for that. But don't wing it. Your dream life isn't created by you winging it, by you waking up every day and just saying, oh, well, let's see. It's created by having a vision, right? And then having goals, right? That these are the steps I need to accomplish to get to that vision. And then those goals are broken up into your daily actions, right? But you're not going to be doing your daily actions all the time. Sometimes you slip up, which is why I say leave purposely most of the time. But then you get back on track. You know, you leave room for life to do life. But you know your plan and you know where you left off and you get right back on track. That's what living purposely means most of the time. All right. Number 7, treat yourself with kindness. So listen, I have this voice in me that is so militant and harsh. I've had it for as long as I can remember. When I think about my childhood and think the way I sort of took life on at age 10, I know. Went to a different school, just looked around and just felt like, okay, my parents are not, I don't like the decisions the adults in my life are making. So I'm going to take control. That's when I developed this thing in me that's really militant, that you got to do this. It just drives me very, very hard. And around age 40, so 7, probably before that, because I think at age 40 is when I started doing something about it. I just felt oppressed by my own voice in me, right? That I was just hard and harsh, like to myself, and I was exhausted with that voice. So then I learned that you've got to learn to treat yourself with kindness. Have compassion for yourself. You are not perfect. The fact that you are a human means you are full of error. That's normal. We say things out of turn. We have to apologize. We don't wake up as early as we want to. We get a do-over the next day sometimes. We make mistakes. I make mistakes in parenting all the time. My kids are more than happy to call me out when I do. I apologize a lot. And I do it earnestly with good intention. Right? So you're not perfect. That shouldn't be the goal. But treat yourself with love and compassion. There is that saying that, people learn how to treat you based on how you treat yourself. It's true. If you don't care about yourself, if you don't look after yourself, mentally, physically, if you don't talk to yourself nicely, why would other people do so? They'll just take the cue from you. Or you won't even recognize what kindness is because you don't even do that to yourself. So for me, I'm constantly countering that version of me that's harsh. And I'm like, you know what? Actually, no. That's what it feels like in my head. That I say something critical and then I counter that with, actually, no, we're not doing that. It was so difficult to even understand what to do with that voice of mine. I had to start saying to myself that, oh, I wouldn't do that to my child. So talk to yourself like you would your own child, where you're kinder, at least for me, more encouraging. When things go wrong, I'm like, okay, didn't happen the way you wanted to. So what can we do? Okay, lick your wounds for a little bit. Then tomorrow we'll get up and try again. Okay, number 8, evaluate your life often. Listen, you can't just live life where you're going down a path and then the path ends up being the wrong path, but you're just going down that path and not stopping for once, thinking, not getting the results I want, what's up? You've got to evaluate yourself with some level of frequency. My aunt likes to call it having a little meeting with herself. She says it in Swahili, kamukutano. And I love it. It's such a sweet way of putting it that sometimes you've just got to sit yourself down. And the cue often is, I'm not getting the results I want. So what's going on? And you just lay out the facts and are really honest with yourself. What's working? What's not working? What can I do better? Very simple. 3 things. Yep, this is going well. This is where I'm struggling. And here's the opportunity. Otherwise, we're just going to live a life where we're not getting the results we want. And we're just doubling down and living that life forever. And then what starts to happen is this dullness, this feeling of being stuck, this sense of overwhelm. this sense of, like, is there no joy here? I think a lot of it comes from not evaluating yourself and figuring out what the problems are, and then not taking action, which is a whole separate thing. But that evaluation, that's connection to yourself and your results, the things you want to do in your life. And measuring, like, all right, where am I? Where am I with my goals? Where am I with my relationships? And am I okay with that? I like to have a list of all the different places that are important in my life, all the things, the categories that are important, my career, my family, and even in that, there are different relationships in that. And once in a while, I ask myself, all right, where are we with that? Is that what I want? What do I like about those things? What don't I like about those things? And again, what can I do better? All right, number 9, mind the naysayers. I was having a conversation with my girlfriend, I think last week, and we were talking about how be careful with the people you share your either stories with, the things, your goals, the things you're trying to accomplish, right? Because sometimes people give you feedback that can be really harsh, right? So she said something really interesting. She was like, the feedback isn't the problem. It's what you're telling yourself about the feedback. And I was like, you know what? You've got a point, right? But I say just mind the naysayers. Be careful about who you share your dreams with. And for those people you choose to share your dreams with, do not use their advice against yourself. People are not seeing things the way you see things. Sometimes people just don't get your vision. And many times people respond to you based on their own perspective and their own limitations. So if you're speaking to someone who's afraid to take risk and you're asking them about changing your entire career, what do you think that person is going to say? They're going to give you advice from their perspective, which is going to be laced with this aversion to risk. Oftentimes I like to ask myself, when I've asked for feedback that I don't like, what was your goal with the feedback? So you went there and got some feedback. What was the plan? And oftentimes what I see is that I solicit feedback from people when I'm uncomfortable about the thing I'm doing myself. So in a way, you are sneakingly trying to get somebody to give you permission, right? And what did I say at the beginning? You are in charge, right? You're in charge. Trust yourself, trust in your decision making, and learn from your mistakes, because that's how you better trust yourself. Don't outsource your responsibility for making decisions to other people. And before you solicit advice, make sure you understand why you're asking for that advice. Or before you internalize people's comments about you and what you're trying to do, evaluate the source. Some people are not worthy of giving you like advice and you internalizing that advice because they got tons of problems in that department. Like, you need to evaluate whether you can trust that source. Okay? So that's minding the naysayers. Now, the last one is expect life to be 50-50. I learned this in my coaching school and I love it. So when I was getting certified as a life coach, this is one of the things I learned there. They said life is 50-50. You get half good and half bad. I love this. Because one of the things I used to do is I used to be really afraid of celebrating. Like when something good happened in my life, I would temper the way I had celebrated. Almost like as if I'm like, in my mind, don't do it too much, just in case. And when I understood that life is 50-50, I stopped that. Because celebrate when you're celebrating and go all out with celebration. Because the other side of the coin will happen too. Shit's gonna happen. Stuff's not gonna work out. And when you're in it, be in it. But it's also not forever. We're gonna go back and forth between good and bad because that is the life experience. If you were happy all the time, I'm sure there would be a clinical word for that. Maybe delusional. If you're sad all the time, there is a clinical word for that. You're depressed. We go back and forth. That is life. Sometimes things work out, then you have an obstacle. I don't know how we can enjoy good things if we didn't have the contrast of something bad. I also think that these bad things that we complain about that happen to us are also opportunities for us to either grow or learn something about ourselves. And I know that they are harsh. Going through a divorce is harsh. Having someone pass away in your life is harsh. Losing your home is harsh. But I always like to tell myself when I'm down in the dumps, struggling, that, all right, this is happening for a reason. I just need to find my reason. I also like to tell myself, which is one of my tenets of encouraging yourself, right? I also like to tell myself, you have everything it takes to pass through this. You just don't know it. Or maybe you don't know what it is that you need to sort of develop in yourself. But you can do it. So you're encouraging. You're trusting of yourself. Then when life is good, gosh, enjoy it. Enjoy that moment. Don't be like how I was before, afraid that the other shoe is going to drop. No, relish in it. Like a pig rolling around in mud, enjoy yourself. And when the bad times happen, dig deep, because you're going to be okay. All right, so I hope this was helpful. I definitely enjoyed doing it. That's all I have for today. And until next time, you take care of yourself. Bye. Thank you for joining me on Life Lessons in Hindsight. Your time and attention mean the world to me. If you found today's episode insightful, please consider prescribing and share it with a friend who may need a little inspiration. Don't forget to visit the show notes for more resources and connect with me on Instagram at Coaching with Teresia. Remember, every single thing happens for a reason. Just find the lesson and you'll be okay. Take care.